行くぞ! Alright, how's it going everybody? This has actually been a video I've been trying to make for quite some time. Effectively around 7 months I've been trying to get this video out. Now, I actually deliberately waited this long before making this video because I want to make absolutely sure that I know what I'm talking about, at least in terms of Final Fantasy XIV. I needed to get enough Savage experience to actually talk about raids. If you may or may not have known, or if you're new to the channel, I come from Guild Wars 2. I've raided there for years, right? I've done all the bosses, I have enough LI, I have enough KP, you name it, right? You get LI, you get KP by raiding. Now, if you're a Final Fantasy player, you're probably already wondering, what the hell are you talking about? Or what is all these crazy terms? Basically, LI is called Legendary Insight, and you get that by raiding. If you complete a raid, you get this currency that can be used to get legendary gear, or you can use whatever, just bank it, use it as proof that you've completed raids, right? I have a lot of that. So essentially what it is that they do is, ask for these currencies in LFG, and if you don't have enough of it, you're gonna get kicked. Or if you don't provide proof that you've killed this boss, you're gonna get kicked. That's Guild Wars 2 raids in general. It's heavily focused on people that only know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, you can't. People don't do prog runs in Guild Wars 2. If you really want to learn, don't use LFG to learn. Use Snowcrow's Discord servers. Use literally every other resource. There's multiple ones that I'm going to talk about right now. If you're a Guild Wars 2 raider, you want to learn raids, go to Snowcrow's. There's a Discord server called Crossroads Inn, and actually one of my buddies is there that I've raided with. His name is Ed, and he's actually like a member there that teaches people how to raid, and they do like raids every Saturday training. So if you want to get into Guild Wars 2 raids, that's where you want to go, okay? So essentially, I'm just going to talk about my experience in both the games right now. In Guild Wars 2, I've raided for years, okay? I have KP, I've killed every boss, I know a lot of the DPS classes. I'm a DPS Andy, I love to do DPS, right? So I play mainly DPS. In Final Fantasy XIV, I play Ninja and I play Samurai. Those are my two favorites. I'm a melee guy there. Ninja's my favorite job, so I play a lot of Ninja, right? My experience in Savage raids in Final Fantasy, I've completed Eden Savage raids. I've done, right now, Zodiark Extreme. I've done Hydaelyn Extreme. So I've done those bosses, got a lot of kills on them. Forest got the Abyss, got the Ring, got all that. So we've done that, and I'm waiting for the Savage raids for Endwalker to release. I'm going to play them with my static, okay? So that's kind of pretty much the goal right now. I also played the new raids. They're amazing. Pretty much kind of like an intro of my experience. I guess the reason I want to talk about this first before actually diving into the video is because I want you guys to know that I'm not bullshitting you. I have experience with both the games and raids, and I want to make sure that I have enough Final Fantasy Savage raid experience to actually know well enough what I'm talking about, including the comps and all that. So without further ado, we're going to dive into the video and let's discuss the comparison between the two games when it comes to raiding. The full experience throughout all of it. Getting into it, as you're playing, mechanics, you name it. Enjoy the video. Okay, so the first thing I would like to talk about is gear. Gear, stats, swapping, equipment, and builds using traits. Okay, so let's talk about gear in Final Fantasy. It's very simple, right? You can only equip gear that your class can wear. And that's basically the way BIS works in Final Fantasy. Is as you progress and new content releases, new raid content, that would be the new BIS, and you would do these raids and you would get the best item, the best dagger. Like with Endwalker, the new Zodiark Hydaelyn Extreme fights that got released, you fight them to get the best rings and you get the best weapon. So you literally, it gives you an incentive to actually learn the raid boss if you want to do the most amount of damage. So raiding is pretty much across the board, commonly played in FF. And basically with gear and stat equipment, you're given specific stats that benefit for your class. And in Final Fantasy, you get this gear, you wear it, that's it. In Guild Wars 2, it uses a system where you can stat swap if you have legendary gear. But the thing about Guild Wars 2 is there is no really, I guess, there is BIS, but it's never updated. The BIS has been BIS the way it is for fucking years. It never changes because they don't release raid content. That is ultimately the problem with Guild Wars 2, is that there is no raid content. They literally stopped caring about it for years. The last one we had was Wing 7, which was, by the way, the best wing I've ever experienced. Wing 7 and Wing 6 are my favorite wings because, in my opinion, Kadim is the best fight ever. Literally, Kadim 1 and Kadim 2, they're the best fights in my opinion. I played Deadeye there. It's a lot of fun. But the idea is that raids aren't common, that BIS equipment for Guild Wars 2, it doesn't matter. You can literally just have the item forever. And boom, just like that. Pretty much useful throughout the entire time. In Guild Wars 2, you have to swap characters to actually change the class, which in my opinion sucks ass. I like the way Final Fantasy does it way more. You just need one character, and you have all the classes you can swap to with a click of a button, and then you can level them up. You don't have to redo the whole story, whereas in Guild Wars 2, you have to redo the whole story, or you can just skip the story and jump at the raids and stuff. In Final Fantasy, you have to do story to actually experience endgame raid content. So you can also skip it if you already have experienced it. But essentially, with gear stat swapping equipment, Guild Wars 2 has a lot of variety with it because there's so many stats, which you can literally choose for yourself, even though some of them are literally trash. So you can be a lot of things even though you're one class. So if you're let's say you're Renegade, right? As a Renegade, you can be Condi Renegade, you can be an Alacrin, which pumps Alacrity. Your build will entirely change. For example, Renegade Alacrity, you would pulse Alacrity to your team. Alacrity reduces all cooldown of all 10 players with a specific trait you have to choose in your build traits. So you have imagine you have a skill tree, and you get to choose whatever you want based on what kind of playstyle you're going. So the stat equipment would be Diviner, which gives you the most amount of boon uptime, and then your build trait, you would change it so it affects 10 players instead of 5 players because Guild Wars 2 rating is 10 players, not 5. So you have that diversity, which is really cool, actually. I like that in Guild Wars 2. You can literally change around how you want to play. The downside is, I guess, that you need to gear a lot of stuff, basically, which isn't exactly a major downside. It's just going to take you some time to get all that and get into raiding and then learning it, because raiding is such a small part of Guild Wars 2 community. It's crazy. I think the same can probably be said for Final Fantasy. I feel like only a set amount of players play Savage raids. But the great thing is there are normal raids in Final Fantasy. So even if you're not experienced enough to do Savage or don't want to do Savage, you still have the normal difficulty raids, which is the same raid but lower difficulty basically and less mechanics. So raiding is far more accessible. There's way more raids, there's way more content that's constantly being updated. We literally have raids right now in Endwalker, and Endwalker's only been out for a few weeks. Guild Wars 2 has not done that thus far. We haven't had new raids since Wing 7. It's been approximately, 2 to 3 years now since Wing 7? I mean, it's kind of a fucking joke. I mean, I played this game for raids, and we're just not getting enough content. I mean, how many times am I going to play the same thing over and over? So that's a problem for me right now in Guild Wars 2. So I wanted to play FF. The raids are fucking awesome. But you have to admit that gear stat swapping and equipment and using, obviously, the traits to swap and play the way you want is really cool. That's something really cool that Guild Wars 2 does. It's just a matter of experience and learning that. So there's pretty much that. Now we're going to talk about equipment, we're going to be talking about LFG. LFG is a fucking joke in Guild Wars 2. Let's just say in LFG, I'm going to give you guys an idea, right? You start LFG, you advertise your group, right? And then you put, okay, I would like you to have 50 LI and 50 KP to join this group. If you don't have this stuff, you cannot join the group. some people are so excessive about it. There was literally one time I joined a raid and I was warrior DPS, right? And the commander literally could not stand the fact that I was a warrior DPS. He was like, hey, I need you to swap warrior, otherwise I'm gonna have to kick you. Like, you can't be playing warrior DPS right now. And I had the ally. I pinged him the ally. I said, yo, I have enough ally. I got enough KP. Like, well, what's the problem? Right? But he literally could not stand the fact that I was a DPS as warrior. Right? That was like the time when I didn't have multiple DPS classes. That was like early on raiding, right? He literally didn't want me to play. Like, he did not want me to play at all as warrior DPS. And the whole party was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, he has enough of the currency you asked for, right? So KP is kill proof, LI is legendary insight. That basically says that you've done raids and you've killed the boss. Kill proof is literally like totems in FF, right? After you kill an extreme fight, for example, or after you kill the savage raid, let's say Book of Eternity, right? E12S, totem, Revel totem. You know, when you kill an extreme fight, you get a totem and then you can use this totem and spend it. In KP, you don't actually spend it because KP is fucking useless in Guild Wars 2. It's literally just for like guild decoration. So literally you bank the whole thing in your bank, filling up slots, because that's the only way you can play raids in LFG. Because people are going to ask for it, and there's no other way to determine skill level because the devs don't actually give people a way to tell if someone has cleared a boss or not. Whereas in Final Fantasy, you can literally customize Party Finder and choose, like, okay, if you're gonna join this party, you have to have the duty completed. Like, you literally cannot join this group if you haven't had the duty completed, which in my opinion is a better design because it also tells you, like, oh, okay, you have at least cleared the boss once, which usually should be enough, but not always, because sometimes they still suck and they don't know the rotation. It happens. Sometimes you join a loot farm party, they're not very good, and it delays the kill time and all that. It's just that Final Fantasy has a more forgiving mindset with it because the community is so fucking nice. But generally speaking, if you join a loot run, if you join a farm run, you have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're literally griefing the entire other 7 players that are trying to play the game and get the loot, right? So it's important that before you join these parties, like, know your shit, right? That's a common thing across the board, not just in FF, but also in Guild Wars 2. So even if you join a group in Guild Wars 2, it's far more gatekeepy, I would say. I literally had one time I was playing Deadeye in Pylons for Kadim 2, and another person failed the mechanic. He left the pylon area, another pylon guy. He left the Deadeye pylon area, and literally the boss encased, so I could not target the boss anymore. And the commander thought it was my fault, but I never left the pylon area, so he literally tried to force me to swap off my role. He went as Deadeye and took over my pylon spot. I'm like, what the fuck you doing? Like, I wasn't even the one that made the mistake. I didn't even make the mistake. Why are you trying to take over my fucking pylon spot, bruh? Like, what's your problem? Right? So he loses shit, right? I thought I was gonna get kicked right there and then, but I didn't actually get kicked. I was surprised because, you know, a lot of the commanders in Guild Wars 2 are so very, very egotistical in LFG. If you don't match their exact requirements and exactly how they want you to do something, you're going to get kicked. Pretty much right off the bat, you will be kicked. LFG is really bad. You have to literally type everything. Also, when it comes to roles and like getting a specific roles in your group, you can't do that effectively. You have to type every single like description role. Like, let's say looking for Alacrin, right? And then you have 4 Alacrins joining all at once. And you're like, oh shit, well, what the fuck am I gonna do? 4 Alacrins join, I have to kick 3 of them now, keep 1. The whole thing is so bad. The design of it is bad. KP system is a player-made currency that could literally be improved if the devs actually gave a shit about it. They don't care about raiders in general. Otherwise, they would have done something that could determine skill level. Final Fantasy has a good solution with it by adding the option of duty completion. If you have duty completed, you can join the raid. It's a step. It's something. They've done something to help people join other people that have also completed the raid. It's a better design. And the Guild Wars 2 LFG system is not well designed because of that reason. They don't even have, like, at least the minuscule things to help raiders clear and get the loot that they want. right? So FF does a better job at LFG, hands down, because not only this, but you can literally select the roles that you want to join. Let's say, okay, I want exactly one ninja, all right, as DPS. All right, no other melee can take this person's spot except a ninja. You have to be ninja, equip ninja, and then click and then join as ninja. Let's say, or only melee DPS, or only ranged, only caster. You can literally customize it exactly how you want. So making it a better design. There is no ping me this, ping me that, ping me KP, ping me LI, as like proof that you've killed the boss before, and literally they will kick you in like, if you make at least like 2 mistakes, 2 attempts, they're gonna kick you. Guild Wars 2 is quite toxic with that. Sometimes you literally get kicked even though it's not your fault because the commander automatically assumed that you're in the wrong. Guild Wars 2 just, LFG system is really bad. If you don't have a static, if you don't have people to play with and join a static, you're gonna struggle. And most static players in Guild Wars 2 are actually hardcore players that know what's going on, so the chances of you finding a new group right now is probably really hard unless they somehow release new raids, which is not gonna happen. I don't think it will. They should have done it years ago. They still haven't, and the new expansion, End of Dragons, is coming, and I don't know if they're gonna release a raid there. I'll tell you that, it's a pretty rare thing for them to care about it right now because they haven't actually said anything regarding adding new raids. So LFG is a problem. It's a clusterfuck. Let's talk about raid release time. With the whole raid talk about LFG, we're gonna talk release time. Like I said, release time for Guild Wars 2 releases raids at a really, really bad timing right now. Like the last raid we had was Wing 7. No other raids besides that. And it's been years, 3 years, 2 years now, almost. Whereas Final Fantasy, every patch, we have new raids, we have new content, constantly pumping out. I feel like the money I'm spending in a subscription-based MMO, I am getting content. I am getting content instead of paying for Guild Wars 2 once and getting no content. I mean, I don't know, I don't have a reason to play Guild Wars 2 right now because I just play the same thing over and over, playing the same classes. Yeah, it's fun to do damage, yeah, it's fun to get top DPS, but how many times am I going to get top DPS to be satisfied? I want to experience something new, and Final Fantasy XIV offers that. It offers that. Right off the bat, new expansion, we already have 2 new fucking raids. We have 4 new normal raids, and we have 2 extremes. Well, we have all the fucking content here, man. So that's why I'm playing Final Fantasy right now, is because we have raid content. They care about raiders, and they care about the hardcore raiders, and they care about the casual raiders, because there's a normal difficulty. The release times for FF is just far better than Guild Wars 2. I feel like Guild Wars 2, they lost their touch with raids, so they have a lot to work on. For me, if I want to play raids again, Guild Wars 2, it's going to be some time until they actually release something meaningful. But yeah, that's really it for release times. Now I'm going to talk about comps and boons and buffs. Oh yes, the comps. In Guild Wars 2, I'm not going to lie, it's actually very diverse with comps. Let's see. You have 10 players, right? At the very least, in some bosses, you want to play damage over time classes, or in some bosses, you want to play power-focused classes. Now I'm going to talk about comps first, all right? So let's say Wing 4, Wing 4 Samurag, right? Samurag boss, pretty simple boss, right? You need CC there. Every 10% of the HP, you need to CC it. Okay, so what do we bring on Samurag, right? We need, first of all, the essentials. 1, Warrior Banner. Warrior Banner, you basically put down the banners, it increases everyone's damage immensely. So if you don't have a warrior in your group with banners, it's almost like trolling. You need it, it gives you too much damage, it gives you ferocity, it gives you precision, it gives you damage, you name it. Gives you all the bunch of buffs, so you need a warrior. Alacrin, big CC, not only big CC, but it provides 10-man alacrity. Alacrity is a boon that can be applied to 10 players. So Guild Wars 2 is a very boon-heavy kind of game. Boon-heavy and buffs-heavy. So you have the warrior putting the banners, increasing 10 players' damage. You have Alacrin, 10-man boon for Alacrity. You literally need to keep pressing F4 on Alacrin to give people Alacrity so they are able to cast their abilities and do their rotations really, really well. And basically reduce all their cooldowns by a big portion. Now keep in mind, you need to have the correct gear. You need to be equipped with the correct gear to be able to play these the way they're supposed to be intended to be played, alright? So if you're playing Alacrin, you need to have Diviner gear, and you have to have Ascended Diviner gear at the very least, best stat equipment, and you need food as well, and pot, or whatever, enchantment. So that's one thing. Okay, so warrior, Alacrin. Next things you need is one chrono quickness tank. Now this guy's gonna be the tank, but also he's gonna give quickness to 5 players. The way it works in Guild Wars 2 is there's 2 subgroups, right? Subgroup 1, subgroup 2. In a 10-man group, right? The commander can order who goes where. Which order you put people in will receive the set amount of buffs that is required for that group. So if you're a chrono monster, you're gonna give 5 people quickness. The commander can choose which 5 people get that quickness. So what is quickness? It makes your actions cast faster. Let's say you're a black mage in FF. You're casting, right? And this thing is gonna make you like release the attack much faster. It's gonna go a lot like fast, right? Speed of light. So if you're playing like, let's say ninja, let's say you have alacrity and quickness on ninja, your attacks are gonna go off faster, and your GCD will be less because people are giving, the guy's giving you alacrity. Just as example. Okay, so warrior, Alacrin, chrono, tank, he gives quickness and tanks. And then you obviously have druid, which is the main healer. He gives spotter to 5 players, so he would be placed in a power focused comp. Power focused are people that use berserker stats. Berserker stats is like the most damage. It's the most commonly used thing in raids, unless you're doing a Condi fight. Condi fight are bosses that would require you to play damage over time. Some bosses playing dot is better than power, based on the design of the boss. It's just the way it is. For example, Soulless Horror, if you play Condi Renegade there, it's really good. Okay, so you have that. So let's go again. Warrior, banners, chrono, quickness tank. You have Alacrin, right? You have druid, 5-man buff, heals a shit ton, and it has raid buff as well. You put spirits on the ground, helps the whole group do more DPS, really huge, right? So that's 4 essentials that you have right now. And for the others, it will be the heal firebrand or quick firebrand in the other group, who will basically give the other 5 people that don't have quickness, he's gonna give them quickness. It's that simple, right? So you have these essentials. These essential classes need to be in pretty much every raid. It pretty much covers alacrity, it covers quickness, it covers heals, it covers, obviously you have the banners, you have CC, Alacrin and Warrior are huge CC, and pretty much the rest would be DPS. So that's pretty much it. Warrior, banners, we call it banner slave, druid, 2 quickness at the very least, and Alacrin, and in some cases, if you're playing strike missions or whatever, you need a heal scourge for bone skin or whatever. So that is also a thing. Okay, that's how boons work and buffs work in Guild Wars 2. And if someone drops the boons, your DPS suffers. So you're heavily reliant on boons, like literally. Druid gives 25 might, for example. If the druid doesn't know how to druid, you're gonna lose DPS, and it's not your fault. It's literally his fault because he didn't pump boons. It's very, let's just say Guild Wars 2 raids are very dependent on that. Buffs, boons, stacking together, it's literally a stack fest in Guild Wars 2, honestly. Like, hey, if you don't stack, you don't get the boons. If you don't get the boons, you do less damage. And I don't like that. I never did like it. It's just a stack fest. Get on top of the group, get on top of the group, receive this, receive that. Like literally, if you're not in the group, you're not gonna get banner buffs, you're not gonna get alacrity, which is a specific set range that affects people. That's the way Guild Wars 2 raids are. Okay, so what's next? Next, we're gonna talk about Final Fantasy raid buffs, which in my opinion is very balanced and very nice. You have Ninja, Trick Attack, bang! You put that Trick Attack in, 15 seconds. For 15 seconds, people do the most amount of damage. You wanna time your Trick Attack in a way where the boss isn't gonna phase. If the boss phases and you have Trick Attack applied, you essentially wasted a use of Trick Attack there. So you have to understand the boss and when to apply it, right? I'm a ninja player, so I'm talking about ninja because that's what I do, right? I apply Trick Attack, and I also have decent personal DPS, not as high as Samurai or Black Mage, but I get Trick Attacks in, so my whole team does a lot of damage. So I love putting that debuff on the enemy, and I just love Ninja because it's a very fast class, right? And it's fun. right? So you have that. You have Dragoon. He gives Battle of Litany crit to the whole team, and you have a Dragoon chain that you can connect to another player so they can do immense ooga booga fucking damage, right? I love Dragoons. Having them in my team is fun. The new Reaper for 20 seconds can give a buff to the whole team. Really, really nice. For 20 seconds, imagine, for 20 seconds they all get more damage. So imagine that inside Trick Attack and inside all these other raid buffs, right? It's a lot of damage. It's just the one thing with Reaper is the cooldown of it is different and stuff than the others. But yeah, basically you have these raid buffs. They are not mandatory is the thing. If you don't have a ninja, it's not the end of the world. You're not like reliant on Trick Attack, even though having it is huge, right? It's not like you're not going to be able to kill the boss. The way it works in Guild Wars 2 is it's comp based with 2 tanks, 2 healers, 4 DPS, and I like that. I like the idea of it. It's very it's pretty like straightforward. Tank, healer, DPS. Very easy to get into, very fun, and I like that holy trinity style. And the DPS, each one is very different from the other. The raid buffs are cool. And just the whole playstyle of it, right? The whole playstyle of Final Fantasy with raid buffs is a lot of fun. It's like every 60 seconds you apply Trick Attack, Dragoon Chain every few seconds as well. I can't remember exactly the cooldown. I believe it was 90 seconds. I don't know if that got changed to Endwalker. And then you obviously have LB. Limit Break is such a fun, unique thing. It does these cool fucking animations where you do like a crazy Mudred Ninjutsu attack as an LB3 and you just unload DPS. It's like a charge up attack that you basically build up through the fight and then one person can use LB3. So all the roles have different LB3s. Melee is heavy single target. Caster LB is AoE. Ranged is like a line AoE skill shot. Or not skill shot, you just target something and you just use it, and it's like a line AoE. Tank LB3 reduces all damage across the board, very useful in a lot of raids, including Ultimate. You need LB3 tank on UU. And you have Healer LB3, which reses everyone in the whole group. And I like that. Boons are fun in Guild Wars 2 and all, but they're not that great the more you play because you're too reliant on boons to actually do personal DPS, and if that person doesn't know what they're doing, you're gonna drop DPS, and I just don't prefer that. In Final Fantasy, you're more self-reliant. You can depend on yourself to do the thing that you need to do. It's not to say that you can't rely on other people. You need to rely on other people in Final Fantasy still, just less so punishing than it would be in Guild Wars 2. In Guild Wars 2, it's literally, if you lose that thing, it's gonna suck for you, right? Suck immensely. So that's the thing with boons and buffs. Okay, mechanic intensity, right? Mechanic intensity in both the games. Which one has more difficult mechanics? I would say Guild Wars 2 has far easier mechanics because it doesn't feel like a very mechanic-intensive game. When I say mechanics, I'm talking about boss mechanics, okay? What Guild Wars 2 does well in is rotation, but some bosses are so fucking bad, okay? Listen, hear me out before all you Guild Wars 2 peoples jump on my ass. Let me just tell you something, okay? I've never heard a single guy tell me that Cairn is a good boss. He's dog shit. You pretty much stack for the entire fight, and you just do damage, and you ignore the mechanic completely with Guardian just using his stability. And there you go. Stand your ground. No one's affected by the thing. You could just sit there and eat it. Cairn is not a good boss. Mursat Overseer. Again, Mursat Overseer is a bad boss. It's literally just stack and do damage. Alright? It's not fun. It's not mechanically intensive. It's just DPS. Now, with that being said, there are incredible boss designs in Guild Wars 2. We have Kadim 1, we have Kadim 2. These bosses are excellently designed. They're actually literally my favorite because I get to play Thief. And me being the assassino that I am, I like to play bosses like that have this heavy, intensive kind of thief action. And the cool thing about Kadim, and I'm going to show some gameplay for it here,
have a cleanse, don't worry. Celeste King now. Okay, lamp is ready, open up. Last room, open up the lamp now.
And inside this lamp, as you go down, you have to kind of solve like a puzzle, and it's just about memorizing the puzzles. You have 3 lamps, and then you choose this certain path, right? And as you choose this certain path, you have to be aware of those mobs. They can literally kill you. They do a lot of damage, and if you die, you're fucked. So I have like a specific build that can help me. I use short bow. I equip these different weapons to help me succeed in the raid. So I'm the lamp man. I love lamp. And then you pretty much, the idea is you take the lamp to go down and then summon the boss at the end of it to actually help in the fight and kill the thing that you need to kill. It's literally part of the mechanic, right? And you have to do it 3 times. If you miss the lamp, too fucking bad. The only way you get out of the maze is if your team destroys the lamp in the middle of the map. If they don't destroy it, you're just basically stuck there. So you have to like spam ping your mount, or if you're in voice chat, just yell at them like, hey, I need help, break the lamp, you know, something like that, and just take the mob with you up there. So I really like that mechanic. It's a lot of fun. DPS pylons is incredible. I love DPS pylons. In Wing 7 Kadim 2, I actually played with Mighty Teapot one time, which I thought was really cool, but I actually have footage of that. I love Kadim 2 as well. I think the mechanics are really good. I play as Deadeye, and I basically have to get this ball and put it on my tower. You have 3 pylon DPS. They're basically all like ranged attackers, right? And you would take the ball and just go back to your pylon and just keep doing damage, right? And I do a hell of DPS with Deadeye. I love Deadeye. Deadeye is fucking sick. It shouldn't really be the top DPS because there are other classes that do a lot. But Deadeye is really fun to play there because you're literally jumping all over the place. You're actually doing mechanics. So I honestly think Wing 6 and Wing 7 have some of the fun, most epic mechanics, whereas the previous, some of the wings are really, really bad. In Final Fantasy, the raids, all of them are fucking insane. Alright, I'm just gonna say this. Final Fantasy has a more focus on mechanics compared to Guild Wars 2. Far more, like by a mile, okay? Like, there's more mechanic intensity, and if you fail the mechanic, you get wrecked hard. In Final Fantasy, it punishes you for these kind of things. Remember that there is no dodging in FF. In Guild Wars 2, you have a dodge, so you can dodge mechanics and stuff like that. In Final Fantasy, you have to rely on your movement. We also have something called Snapshot, where you see the cast animation of a boss, and then you have to time it perfectly to basically not get snapshotted. So you can do like some melee uptime strats with this. Like as you're damaging the boss, when the cast time finishes, you can go back in immediately. The animation of it won't matter because the cast time finished. Once the cast time finishes, the server basically processes whoever was in that AoE after finished casting, right? If it finished casting and you're already out, and then you can go in even if the animation happens, you're safe. And that's like a cool like uptime strat that I have a lot of fun with that. Like I do a lot of fun things with that. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy my time playing FF raids. I really like the FF mechanics. E12S is one of my favorite fights of all time. I love the spread stack mechanics and watching which tether it tethers to so that you can adjust accordingly to whatever's tethered to, right? And you play according to that, and that's a lot of fun. I love doing that, understanding the mechanics in depthly that way. And then you have the Hadoukens, of course, and then you fight Gaia, and the Gaia fight is so cool. I love it. There's like the whole spread, and you also have to watch the thermometers to know take which as north. the golden thermometer is taken as north, so you have to play around that, and then you have the debuff placements in that fight. It's just so in-depth with mechanics. I never saw anything like that in Guild Wars 2. In Guild Wars 2, let's be real, for the most part, you're basically just stacking. Oh, let's say Matthias, for example. You're literally stacking for the most part, and once you get that thing with the tier, okay, you gotta go to the fountain. You gotta remove the debuff by running to the fountain, and then jump back to the boss. And you obviously lose melee uptime or whatever. You lose damage by doing that. That's why you go Condi damage, so you have damage over time. As you're moving away, you're still doing damage because you applied damage over time on the boss. Okay, so that's basically how it works. But the mechanics are not intensive. They're really not intensive. You do have a spread mechanic in Matthias as well, so there's at least some movement in there, but most of the part, you're stacking for boons, and if you don't get the boons, it's gonna suck. So it's heavily focused around people actually giving you boons to do damage. Now, it's the way Guild Wars 2 is designed. We can't bash it for its design, right? I'm just saying Final Fantasy Raids does a better job at this stuff because you're not heavily reliant on other players giving you all the shit. You can rely on yourself and do damage yourself, and you're fine. Like, I enjoy that way more. I don't know what to tell you. I've done Guild Wars 2 raids. I've done, Guild Wars 2 guide raids, teaching people how to play this stuff, mainly for classes that that are really fun and self-dependent. Why do you guys think I play Thief Deadeye and Thief Pylons and Lamp and Deadeye Kiting on Wing 6, where it's like precise dodge timing? Because I like doing stuff alone. I like to be kind of a lone wolf in some of these cases, and also helping the team whenever I need to with CC and stuff like that. If I play a different class, I will CC. But for the most part, I enjoy being like the one that does specific solo things, right? Because it's more enjoyable that way for me, and I like raiding and being useful in that way. Sabbatha, for example, Wing 1 Sabbatha. You have the cannons, you jump to the cannon. I like being the person in charge of the cannon because there's that certain personal responsibility for doing the cannons, and if you don't together the cannons, the whole team gets fucked. So I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that aspect. Some bosses are incredible. I'm not bashing Guild Wars 2 raids. I've done all of them. I love it, right? But some bosses are fucking trash, okay? You can defend Cairn and Marsat Overseer all you want. At the end of the day, it's literally just a DPS golem. At the end of the day, that's all it is. It's a targeting dummy. That's what the raid boss is, which is disgusting to say, really. In a raid end game setting, it's not okay. I don't like it. And I really think some of these bosses are really badly designed because you can literally skip mechanics with damage. You can skip mechanics in FF with damage, but you still have to do mechanics, specific role mechanics as well. Like sometimes you get only healer mechanics, or only tank mechanics, or only DPS mechanics, and you have to position accordingly to that situation. It's just a lot of fun. I love it. Okay, now we talked about mechanics. Now we're gonna talk about rotation difference, which one is harder, right? Which has harder rotations. I'm not gonna lie here, both rotations are really good. Both the games have good rotations. I'm going to show you a bit of footage right now for both the game's rotations and some of my classes that I play, so watch this. Bombana. What? Dude, Samurai is fucking badass. Yo.
And there you have it, guys. As you can see, here's the damage graph, and there you have it. It's
Okay, so as you saw, that's the rotation difference. It's not too crazy. They're just different. Remember that Final Fantasy has global cooldown rotations, and it's just as fast, just as intensive, just as fun. Rotation is just... both, in my opinion, are good. I don't think one is necessarily harder than the other. Even if you're playing Black Mage, sure, you have cast time and it's like slower rotation compared to a lot of the other classes in Guild Wars 2, but Black Mage needs excellent positioning in Savage Rage, or you will literally get fucking dicked. So you have to position excellently, you have to avoid mechanics and and use all the cast time, and also avoid mechanics at the same time. Like, some of these classes are really hard. Black Mage being one of the hardest in Savage Raids. So you also have like Ninja with the Shikuchis, and like you can improvise it. Like now we have Raiju, right? Like I Shikuchi out, I can Raiju back in, avoid that mechanic, dash back in, do damage. It's a lot of fun, man. Like rotation wise, I really love both the game's rotations. And I like the weapon swapping in Guild Wars 2. I think it's a lot of fun. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making raid guides on classes if I didn't enjoy them myself. So rotation-wise, I think both games do it excellently. I had a lot of fun doing rotation on Samurai, Ninja, you name it. It's a lot of fun. So rotation-wise, top-notch. Both games do it well. And pretty much it. Yeah. There are some classes, obviously, that I don't play, like Chrono Monster. I don't play that. I just play DPS classes, so I do, like, Reaper, Kandi Renegade, Power Warrior, Power Daredevil. I love these classes, right? I love them. Deadeye is sick as well. So these are my basically main jobs. Or I said jobs, classes, okay. I'm playing too much FF, guys, okay? We all say jobs now. Okay. So how do we conclude this now? Raid community difference. What do I think? As a verdict to this video, which has the better community for raiding in general, Savage raiding? Final Fantasy XIV, without a doubt in my mind, I'm gonna say Final Fantasy XIV has a better community when it comes to raids. FF14 is more open-minded, LFG is better, and because LFG is better, the community is better. We don't spam ping KP, hey, if you don't have enough of this, you can't join this raid, out. And it literally, like, it doesn't even, dude, okay, hear me out. It doesn't even determine your skill level if you have enough fucking KP. You can have 50 KP and still suck ass at your rotation, and you probably can fail mechanics and stuff like that. KP doesn't equal skill. That's what Guild Wars 2 raiders think, is that, oh hey, if you have this, if you don't have this, well, too bad, you can't join the raid, even though you can be pretty good, and you've learned the mechanics, you've watched videos, and you know your shit. Sometimes you're not even given the chance to play at all. You can't even, like, raid at least one pool. They won't let you, because they consider you a waste of time. And because they consider you a waste of time, boop, let's just boot them, and hopefully someone else joins that has more KP, and if they have more KP, aha, now I trust that person, because he has more KP, and he has more LI. There's more kill proof on this guy, so he must be good. And the mindset of that is absolutely trash. When we go to strike missions, all right, it gets even worse. listen. It gets even fucking worse in strike missions. People ask LI in strike missions. Okay, so what is strike missions? Just so you guys know, in strike missions, it's like a baby version of endgame raids, right? It's like, oh, hey, come play here. You know, you get the whole comp design, and you don't get legendary insight drops for killing bosses there at all. And people there in LFG, they ask for legendary insight in strike missions, which is non-related to raids, far easier than raids, but the people got the fucking audacity to put that in their fucking LFG. It's like, bro, what you doing? And they do that all the time. And hey, I played Warrior, and I'm telling you, like, they don't like DPS Warrior even, so I'm like, okay, fine, like, I can just play other DPS classes. I don't mind at this point because I have multiple, but back then I only had DPS Warrior. They don't like the idea, like, they're very, very controlling, alright? In like, you shouldn't need 250 LI to be able to do a strike mission. Like, I don't care how fluid, speedrunny you want to do it. It's so scumbaggy to ask that. If anything, ask for Bone Skin or KP or something. If you really want to make sure they don't suck, you ask for Bone Skin or KP. You don't ask for Legendary Insight. It's like a completely separate game mode. And people have the audacity to do that, and they do it. And I think not only is it toxic, but it's heavily gatekeeping. And as a hardcore raider myself, I think it's gatekeeping. I want people to know, of course, how to do the boss. I want people to know, like, when they join the party, they're asking for, like, you know, they're joining in and, like, we're going for the kill, you know? But I'm not gonna ask 250 Alliance strike missions, even how hardcore I am in Guild Wars 2 raids, I would never ask that in strike missions, but they do it. They do it. Imagine that, right? Yeah, it's bad. So overall, my final verdict is that raid community in Guild Wars 2 can be very toxic. If you're lucky, you'll meet people that are cool and know their shit. If you're unlucky, you won't. In Final Fantasy, I never ran into bad situations, probably only once ever through my 7 months of playing, and I managed to do Savage raids. And it's more accessible, and there's normal raids, so you can play normal raids if you don't want to get into Savage. So really, in general, I think Final Fantasy does a better job at the whole raiding thing compared to Guild Wars 2. And that's pretty much that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching tonight's video, and I'll catch you around. Peace out.